Good afternoon. Welcome to the webinar today. My name is Nicole Phil. I'm the Regional HPV Educator here at Scenic Rivers Area Health Education Center. We're very excited to have you join us for part one of a three-part series this summer titled The Neighbor to Neighbor, Promising and Best Practices in Increasing HPV Immunization Rates. Today we're going to feature three speakers from Iowa. We'll have Liddy Hora with the American Cancer Society, Tessa Allred from the Iowa Cancer Consortium, and Katie Jones from the Iowa Department of Public Health. Each of our speakers will talk for about 15 minutes or so, and then we will also have time for Q&A at the end. So if you have questions, feel free to type in your questions or comments in the Q&A box located on the right side of your screen. Then if we also have time at the end, we can open it up. If there's others from Iowa that have work that they would like to share, we'd love to hear about it, so we can go ahead and unmute you as well. So if you're interested in that, just type in a little comment in the chat box there. So before I forget, just a quick intro for Scenic Rivers AHEC. We received a grant. The National AHEC organization received a grant from the CDC. So here's our funding statement here to do this work. And then also, before I forget, we also have a few other webinars coming up this summer. So part two of this neighbor-to-neighbor sharing session will take place on July 19th at 12 p.m., and that will feature speakers from Wisconsin. And then part three, featuring speakers from Minnesota, is on August 16th at noon. If you're interested in being a presenter for either of those webinars, please contact me, because we still do have a couple spaces available. And then on July 25th, our National AHEC organization will be hosting a webinar titled School Nurses' Role Within HPV Vaccination Uptake, a Model for Interprofessional Collaboration. And you can register for all of those webinars on our website there at scenicriversahec.org. So with that, we will welcome our first speaker today. So our first speaker is Liddy Hora. She's a Senior Manager for Hospital Systems at the American Cancer Society. She's in Central Iowa, and she manages prioritized health systems engagement on prevention, early detection, screening, and quality of life initiatives, employee health and wellness programs, and population health-related efforts to achieve cancer control priorities. Some of her other responsibilities include delivering an established strategy for health system partners and developing an account plan to achieve ACS goals. She's responsible for the implementation of an account team strategy for managing prioritized system relationships within a assigned portfolio, and serves as a primary relationship manager to assigned accounts. And also she aligns health system affinities and needs with ACS program of work to achieve individual high-impact mission and income opportunities which support enterprise goals. So with that, we will welcome Liddy.
Thank you, Nicole. Now, I'm not seeing the slide pop up. Are you? I'm just seeing a white screen. This is Liddy.
Do you see your slide now, Liddy?
No, I do not.
Oh, okay.
This maybe other people do. I don't know.
Tessa, are you seeing it?
Not on this page, but I can just pop mine up, and if other people are seeing it, that's fine.
Let me try this another way. 1 second here. Sorry for the technical issues.
Okay, that's all part of that. Yep, I see it now.
You do see it?
Yep, perfect. Thank you so much, Nicole.
Great.
Yes, and as Nicole said, I'm Liddy Hora with the American Cancer Society, and primarily my work, I'm calling from Central Iowa, and really support the cancer centers throughout Iowa and the work that they do, and particularly the work that we're doing in HPV. So I only have a one slide, and we've really been trying to share our story in sort of a one, almost like a newspaper type of storyline. And if the headlines of my newspaper would be Iowa's largest clinic systems committed to system-wide quality improvement projects to increase HPV vaccination rates. And so if you're familiar with the Des Moines, Iowa area, we've got two very large cancer centers. They're across the street. They're both very successful. They Mercy and Unity Point Health. They see a lot of cancer patients. And it's a very rare situation where we can actually get both of these cancer centers together on the same page working on a project, and particularly with HPV. And we were very fortunate last year that we applied as a team, Unity Point, Mercy, and ACS, the Iowa Cancer Consortium, and we were awarded $10,000 to work on a project. And really, for our goal was to increase those HPV rates in Iowa. Now, I would like to share a little bit more of just the process on how we were successfully able to bring so many players to the table to work on this common goal. Because one of the things that I found is that all cancer centers and all healthcare systems, they have a lot of competing priorities. They have a lot of different projects that they have, and sometimes HPV is not always on their top priority. So our first goal was to really create that awareness, and I call it sense of urgency, that we have a problem and that we all as healthcare systems and nonprofits and community need to come together on this. So part of that was really sharing the HPV story with survivors, and we really began with statistics. And as a hospital manager, I have the privilege to be able to actually serve on the cancer committees on both Unity Point and Mercy. And at those meetings, that's where I really was sharing those hard data and statistics on HPV vaccination and truly what was happening in Iowa. One of the things I have found to be very true is that most people think we're doing a lot better than what we are. And they're not really deep, they're not taking a deeper dive into their data and not realizing that we have a long ways to move the needle to get those vaccination rates up. So really our first step was to create that sense of urgency and sharing that in Iowa, 33% of adolescent girls, 26% of adolescent boys are completing their HPV vaccination series. Now, one of the interesting anecdotal stories is when I share these statistics to the cancer centers, I've oftentimes had a little bit of pushback from oncologists and radiologists saying, well, Lydia, aren't you talking to the wrong group? Shouldn't you be talking to primary care? And that's when I share the statistics of, and sharing that, aren't you getting tired of seeing the cancer, these HPV-related cancers coming down the pipeline that are landing, on their tables and in their clinics. And so we really were successfully able to identify cancer-centered champions to really lead this initiative to get the interest and buy-in through our primary care. Because we're seeing that increased cervical and anal cancers and penile cancers coming through and really affecting the cancer centers. So in this picture, if you take a look at what we ended up doing, it was about an 8-month process to bring our partners together. And some of the things that we learned, and we called it teaming across the boundaries, that we were very successful, and I think ACS's role was very much as the convener to really bring together Unity Point Health, Mercy. We brought in our Des Moines University, and of course our strong partners with Iowa Department of Public Health. And we really assembled our team together. We set schedules that we were going to be meeting virtually. I have to share that Iowa, we have a lot of geographic distances between a lot of our offices. Many people are working remotely and are very busy schedules. So our planning in this program was all virtual. And our goal, as we set in this plan, was to really focus on that important aspect to know that a key component of increasing our HPV vaccination rate was to have a very powerful and strong provider recommendation. One of the top reasons why parents are not initiating HPV vaccination for their children is that it's not being recommended. And oftentimes the recommendation is quite frankly, very weak and ineffective. So as a team, we really strategized and did actually a nationwide search on trying to identify a speaker who would come that would actually attract enough physicians, clinicians, and the staff on both sides of the, Unity Point and Mercy that would come and learn about the importance of the strong vaccination and the importance of a strong recommendation. So we really focused on, and we identified Dr. Noel Brewer, who is the professor of the health behavior at the University of North Carolina. And Dr. Brewer, for those of you who have ever looked at any of the research papers and the work that's being done in that communication aspect of a strong recommendation, it's hard to find a paper that has Dr. Noel Brewer's name on it. He's also the chair of the HPV National Vaccination Roundtable, so he's very well respected and very knowledgeable in this area. We were really fortunate to get Dr. Brewer to come to Iowa, and one of the things that we wanted to do is really utilize his ability to teach that component, and we call it sort of the bundled up approach or announcement approach that is evidence-based, that shows that when used in that type of technique, that the rate of HPV vaccinations will go up almost over by 6% just by using his communication tool. So as a committee, we pulled together and we kept Dr. Brewer very busy. He came to Iowa in April, and we really tried to utilize him in many different areas. And as you can see on my screen, we had 2 days, and we actually had a provider educational event that was really focused on communication skills training. I think one of the smartest things we did was we had a survivorship panel at this program too, so we really had the voice of the survivor and created that sense of urgency of how important this is to Iowans and to our healthcare systems to increase these vaccination rates. That was a very positive thing. And then we ended up the next morning with Dr. Brewer. We had a grand rounds presentation with him, which was over 196 students, residents attending, and he was able to provide this technique on the bundled approach and teaching the students and the future residents of the importance of this communication tool. And then he met with also the DMU, the Des Moines University researchers, and then we ended up his 2 days in Iowa with a healthcare systems leadership meeting. And this was, if you take a look at my picture, it says all in. These were really, that's an amazing pictures, because I look at this and it really is a cross-section of the leaders and the quality improvement staff in Mercy and Unity Point coming together, talking about this topic and really making that commitment that they would make HPV vaccination rates and this issue a top priority. So so when I look at Dr. Tim McCoy, who is definitely a leader in this initiative, and he was a champion and still is a champion, one of the quotes I like to share is that this event was successful, no doubt, but it's just a start. We have a long way to go. So some of the lessons learned I see in this is that it was just a start. We're not in the business of events and programming, but we're very successful in getting the attention of these healthcare systems, having them take a look at their vaccination rates, getting the excitement, and that I call it the spark that we need to do something. And so now we are already in planning stages for this next year to do more deeper dive in teaching other physicians in both systems this bundled approach, and then they themselves will turn around and teach their peers this communication skills so that it can be sustainable and we can continue to increase those HPV vaccination rates. So that's it. I'm going to stop because it's 15 minutes, and if anyone's got questions, they're certainly welcome to ask.
Great. Thank you so much, Liddy. Just a reminder, if you do have questions, there's 2 options for putting them in. There's a Q&A box and there's also a chat box. Feel free to enter in either one. we will go on to our